Hare Krishna devotees, welcome to Shloka a Day. Today's Shloka is Shloka number 9 of chapter 15. Shrotram chakshusparshanam cha
Sotram chakshuspashanam cha
Nasanam ghranam eva cha
Rasanam khranam cha
Adhishthaya manaschayam
Adhishthaya manaschayam
Vishayan upasevate.
Vishayan upasevate.
Forward meaning, translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada ki. Shrotram,
Shrotram,
ears.
ears.
Chakshuhu,
Chakshuhu,
eyes.
eyes.
Sparshanam,
Sparshanam,
touch.
touch.
Cha,
Cha,
also.
Rasanam,
Tongue.
tongue.
Granam,
smelling.
Smelling power. Eva, also. Cha, and. Adhishthaya, being situated in. Manaha, mind. Cha, also. I am. He. Vishayan, sense objects. Upasevate, enjoys. Translation: the living entity, thus taking another gross body, obtains a certain type of ear, eye, tongue, nose, and sense of touch, which are grouped about the mind. He thus enjoys a particular set of sense objects. So Prabhupada writes a very short purport. In other words, if the living entity adulterates his consciousness with the qualities of cats and dogs, in his next life he gets a cat or dog body and enjoys. Consciousness is originally pure like water, but if we mix water with a certain color, it changes. Similarly, consciousness is pure, for the spirit soul is pure. But consciousness is changed according to the association of the material qualities. Real consciousness is Krishna consciousness. When therefore one is situated in Krishna consciousness, he is in his pure life. But if his consciousness is adulterated by some type of material mentality, in the next life he gets a corresponding body. He does not necessarily get a human body again. He can get the body of a cat, dog, hog, demigod, or one of many other forms, for there are 8.4 million species. So the Lord is saying, depending on the conditioning of the consciousness, it will determine your next type of body. So that is why the human life is so rare. So sometimes the question is asked, there is this, we read in one of the purports earlier this week, there are 3 categories, there is the Nitya Siddhas, there is the Nitya Baddhas, and then there is the Sadhana Siddhis. The Nitya Siddhi, Sadhana Siddhi, and then the Nitya Baddhas. So that means there are souls that are eternally conditioned. Eternally means it's for a very, very long time. So sometimes the question is asked, so how did we come down here in the first place? Because if in the spiritual world there is no contamination, how did our consciousness get contaminated? And what happens to us? So Prabhupada explains that even if a momentary thought comes to our mind, in our consciousness, in our pure consciousness, that is opposed to the type of thoughts that are there in the spiritual world, then immediately the first birth you take is of Lord Brahma. Now, what happens is that some of the Jivatmas recognize, oh, I made a mistake. So when they are taking that position as Lord Brahma, they will meditate on the Lord and go back to the spiritual world. But for those who are a little bit more confused when they become Lord Brahma, then they keep gliding down the species. So that is what happens when you're in the spiritual world and you have a momentary lapse of attention of being a servant of the Supreme Lord. So anyway, while we are in this material world, our mind is doing all kinds of things. So let us see. The mind is not just a window, it is also a camera. The mind is like a window. It integrates inputs coming from the senses and presents them to the soul for processing. Of course, the mind is a sophisticated window. It's like the computer screen of a security system that displays inputs from closed circuit TVs placed strategically in a high security building. Significantly, the mind is also like a camera that records whatever it perceives. It is like a high end security system wherein images are not just displayed on the screen but also stored in the data drive. That means your senses is constantly bombarding the mind, and even if the mind doesn't act on it, the mind has preserved that data for future purposes. So these are called impressions. The impressions stored in the mind arise within us as its propositions. Thus, the mind is like a responsive camera that not only records inputs but also thereafter zeroes in on those inputs. For example, if someone has drunk repeatedly, their vision often latches on to drinks when partying or onto bars when driving. The stronger the impressions in the mind, the more forceful are its propositions. So if you keep feeding the thoughts to consume alcohol, then the impressions become deeper and deeper and deeper. Over time, these propositions become so automatic and inevitable that they become our habits, even our addictions. So much so, you're almost automatically responding to the stimuli without even thinking about it. That's how we become an addict. The mind's impressions direct our actions throughout our life and even shape our destination beyond this life. Our future body is determined by our present life conception, which was mentioned in Shloka 8. And our life conception is the cumulative of the mind's prominent impression. So whatever is dominating your mind is what is going to determine your next body. Encouragingly for us, Bhakti Yoga channels the mind's dual nature spiritually. How? It uses the mind's window function by urging us to focus on Krishna centered perceptions such as deities, scriptures, and holy names. So you will notice that when you start practicing Krishna consciousness and when you start chanting the holy names of the Lord, your tastes will slowly change. Then you're eager to see the deity pictures. You're anxious to chant the holy names of the Lord. You're anxious to attend classes. So now new impressions are being formed on the mind. So that is why Krishna says in chapter 2, your lower desires have to be replaced by higher desires. So when you start practicing these higher desires on the spiritual platform, then your mind starts getting new impressions. And when these impressions become strong, then your faith in Krishna can reach to the stage of nishtha or absolute conviction that Krishna is the only Supreme Lord and He is your Supreme Master. And it uses the mind's camera function by urging us to remember Krishna constantly, thereby forming devotional impressions in the mind. So, in the 6th chapter, Krishna says that If you have learned how to control your mind, then your mind becomes your friend. A friend will never betray you. But if you've allowed your mind to control you, then your mind has become your enemy. So what is the best way to make sure that your mind becomes your friend? You have to form devotional impressions. You have to keep feeding your mind devotional activities. When these impressions arise as default propositions within us, they deepen our focus on Krishna, thereby purifying our consciousness and propelling us towards his eternal abode for a life of endless love. So the whole Bhagavad Gita is the, the proposition that Krishna has, that it is a mind game. If you can reorient your mind and your senses and your intelligence to Krishna, then your mind will not trouble you. But if it doesn't, then your mind is going to also dictate the kind of body that you take in your next life. And as Prabhupada says, there is no guarantee that in your next life you'll be a human being. Zero guarantee. That's why Krishna is saying here, you will get a certain type of ear, a certain type of eye, a certain type of tongue, skin, touch, etc. So Krishna is not guaranteeing that you will get a human form in your next life. It all depends on the conditioning of your consciousness.
If you like our videos, please subscribe to our channel and turn on the bell notification. If you'd like to join our classes every day, please check the details in the description section of this video. We look forward to serving you.